We got a bit of news to get to today before the previews for Battle in the Valley and Elimination Chamber. So let's get done with the news. And it starts with Carmelo Hayes discounting the report from Dave Meltzer. I believe it was from Meltzer. Yes, it was from Meltzer. The report from Dave Meltzer about Melo getting called up to the main roster and possibly being put in the Hurt Business. Last time I checked, that if anything, Melo's not going to confirm Meltzer's report. Him discounting the report. I mean, that's kind of expected, because why would he, say, "Oh yeah, Dave, great job. You're right, 100%." If anything, he would say, "No, Dave, you're wrong." Basically, what he said. And take it from there, because why would he ruin the surprise and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get called up after WrestleMania"? It's like, no, you're going to... also, I still think it's possible that maybe they would do what they did, maybe they would do something like Melo staying down in Developmental, but occasionally appearing with the Hurt Business to give him a run with the NXT title, and then bring him up to the main roster and do it like that. But that's just something that I'm thinking that they could do. That is in no way, shape, or form confirmed. Also, we got news on Kenny Omega, but that is coming later tonight. Later in this news video, as Keith Lee returned last night on Rampage to assist Dustin Rhodes in Dustin's on an even numbers game with Mogul Affiliates. Keith Lee has not been seen since being taken out by the Mogul Affiliates back in December, so it is nice to see Keith Lee back with a haircut. And also, it's nice to see Keith Lee back in AEW, getting things going with him and Swerve Strickland. The only question I have is, if he does get things going with Swerve, are they going to get things going before Revolution, or is Revolution 2 set in stone at this point right now, that they're gonna set things in motion as they move to Revolution, and maybe Swerve versus Keith Lee 1-on-1 will take place at maybe Swerve versus Strickland. Swerve versus Keith Lee will take place at Double or Nothing in May. And maybe they'll build up Dustin and Keith Lee against Swerve and the Mogul Affiliates first. Because Dustin is with Swerve, so why the heck not? But also, Bryan Danielson, there are reasons why the American Dragon has not competed in New Japan just yet. And one of the reasons is that basically Bryan Danielson is having the matches that he would have had in New Japan in AEW, so he doesn't feel the need to compete in New Japan. But also, it's the idea that he wants to compete in New Japan when New Japan allows cheering again, which apparently clapping and cheering, which apparently, from what I'm understanding, it's still a limitation placed on the fans because of COVID and the pandemic, that is something that will be limited for the time being, and is something that has been placed as a limitation due to the pandemic, and the restriction has not been lifted, as some events allow cheering and other events don't. Like tonight at Battle in the Valley is a cheering event, but in Japan it is not allowed yet. I don't know if it has something to do with COVID. I don't know what the reasoning behind the restrictions is. But what I do know is that's one of the reasons why Bryan Danielson has not competed in New Japan just yet. But the one interesting note is that the negotiation before Bryan left WWE opened the door for WWE and Nick Khan and New Japan to have some negotiations, like the Bryan Danielson negotiations, opened the door for New Japan and WWE to start talking, and WWE's initial plan was to be the sole provider of talent to New Japan, which Tony Khan heard about this as if WWE was the sole provider of talent to New Japan, that would take AEW and Impact off New Japan's talent list, or prevent them from getting access to the talent. So that forced Tony Khan to change his tune and go make sure that he didn't lose the partnership with New Japan. And with that made Bryan Danielson go and find out who got the partnership with New Japan, and that partnership with New Japan is one of the reasons why Bryan Danielson signed with AEW. And an interesting note is, it's an interesting note to say, if WWE and New Japan ended up with a partnership, how would things have changed? Like, seeing WWE and New Japan working together and knowing that somebody like Matt Riddle could end up in New Japan, or Seth Rollins could show up in New Japan. And, would it have been a bad thing for Impact? Absolutely. It would have been a horrible thing for Impact, because having talent like Chris Bay, Ace Austin, Kenta, being able to market the debut of Kenta, and, the Good Brothers and all those other guys that they've had over the last 2 years since their relationship with New Japan, was repaired, it would cause more of an impact to Impact Wrestling, but also there are some within WWE that believe WWE could sign Kenny Omega away. I know, but think about where we felt with Cody Rhodes, and think about where we are with Kenny Omega. Meltzer noted back in September that February 2023 would be when Omega's contract was set to expire. We are in February 2023, but there is a possibility, due to the length of time that Omega spent injured, that he would have had time added to his contract. There is no concrete evidence of the latter, but also there is no concrete evidence that Omega's contract is up in February 2023. We will talk about this a little bit more in the next video, because there is another story to get to, so we will break this down a little bit more in the next video, as we have a little bit more news to get to before the previews. So with that being said, let's get to the next news video. I will see you then.